We only have two enemies in Europe at the moment, and this is Sweden and Ireland. My revenge on Sweden is Malmo. We have at least 8, 9 nations who are very friendly to Israel. Most European nations are fair-minded, even if critical. We only have two enemies in Europe at the moment, and this is Sweden and Ireland.
Because they recognize Palestine?
No. This is just a manifestation. The Swedes are always very hostile. We have elections soon, so maybe things will change in Sweden. But the Swedes and the Irish are always very hostile.
What do you mean?
Look, the Swedes have this fantasy that they are the people who will tell everybody who's right and who's wrong, and we look at them and say, who the hell are you? Actually, we use stronger language than this, okay, to ourselves, okay? They're being ridiculous, and they have these perceptions that is... Okay, I never heard that. My revenge on Sweden is Malmo. You know, this is a place where people can't live anymore, and it's a very major problem, and they really deserve it.
We're getting short on time, so let me get to the next part of this. Now, we have alluded to this financial chicanery that's happening, the shady financial dealings inside of TPUSA, and this guy, Zach, over at Wolves in Finance, has been exposing it left and right to the point where they sent him a cease and desist letter, and they're getting ready to sue him. And so he found out some more stuff. Well, here, first of all, there was an IRS letter. So let's get into this. There was a letter sent to TPUSA from the Secretary of the Treasury. Listen to this.
That is just kind of the tip of the iceberg as far as the allegations. I know that Wolves and Finances have kind of brought to the fore against TPUSA. And Robert, I know I actually got some of the documents, the letter from the IRS to Erica Kirk and TPUSA that talks about what their situation is as regards to the IRS.
This letter has been floating around and reported on by mainstream news outlets like CBS, except the letter itself has never been shown until Paramount Tactical's podcast. In fact, I'm guessing he was not supposed to show this to his audience because it is quite shocking.
By the way, this tactical guy he has a penchant for doing this.
He did this with Andrew Colvett when he was providing the fake alibis.
Yes. He really revealed that he was being funneled information directly from TPUSA insider Andrew Colvett, and he wasn't supposed to reveal that, and he did. He also inadvertently confirmed that Mitch Snow was at Camp Huachuca when he brought on his son, who he hadn't talked to for 22 years, to confirm that and now there's this. He's now released this letter, which he probably wasn't supposed to, but listen to what Zach has to say.
It is a 2-page letter on Department of the Treasury letterhead. It says it is responding to a request from Erica Kirk. It says, 1, there is no IRS investigation currently underway on Turning Point. 2, all 4 990 forms were filed by May 15th, 2025. 3, the next year's forms will be filed by May 15th, 2026. The letter is signed by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Paramount Tactical is presenting this letter as some kind of evidence that there is no fraud at Turning Point. That is ridiculous for a number of reasons. We all know this because all of us deal with the IRS. We all know this is not normal behavior. Have any of you ever received a letter from the IRS saying, just letting you know, we're not doing an investigation on you? No, of course you have not, because the IRS does not do this. And it's not coming from the IRS. The letter is signed by the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. But to me, this looks more like a political favor to Donald Trump's personal friends than a legitimate IRS communication. Second, the wording in this letter does not mean anything. Just because the IRS is not investigating does not mean there is no fraud going on. This does not mean that donors cannot sue Turning Point to get their money back. This does not mean that state attorney generals cannot file criminal charges against Turning Point executives. This letter does not disprove my concerns about their finances. And what is this? What is this? At the top of the page, someone has crossed out Mrs. Kirk and wrote in Erica. It looks like someone is proofreading Scott Bessent's letter. Who could that be? I have reviewed so many White House documents, and in my opinion, that handwriting looks like it was written by Donald Trump. If you compare it to other samples of his writing, he does a consistent method where he writes a name dash, name dash, name dash. The K is very much like this K. The E is written the same way as this W. This handwriting looks like it belongs to Donald Trump. This letter does not look like it came from the IRS. It looks like it came from the President of the United States. Do you understand what this means? This is the only document the Democrats need to impeach President Trump. This looks like the president's handwriting on official letterhead of him interfering in an IRS investigation of his personal friends. Let me remind you of Richard Nixon. Nixon faced impeachment charges for interfering with the FBI investigation into the Watergate scandal. The main evidence was secret tape recordings of conversations in the Oval Office. Donald Trump is doing the same thing with the IRS investigation, but this time we have what looks like his handwriting on official letterhead. It looks like the White House is now part of the cover-up at Turning Point. Let me give some free accounting advice to Donald Trump. You get this one for free, Donald. Stop writing letters like this. Why isn't he distancing himself from this scandal? I highly doubt that Donald Trump was aware of what Tyler Boyer was doing behind the scenes. But now with this letter, Donald Trump looks like he's getting involved. And I'm saying this as someone who likes Donald Trump, and this letter deeply bothers me. People have a right to be upset about this. Turning Point has been raising millions of dollars from donations. Most people don't know what has been happening with the donations.
Okay, so we'll stop there. So what does that tell you, Stu? Does that tell you that what it tells me is that I knew immediately when Kash Patel was trying to pin this murder on Tyler Robinson and was trying to make us pretend that some guy who never committed a crime before was able to get on a roof with $1 million security teams around, and he was able to get up there. He found the open door. He'd never been to that campus. He found the open door, knew how to get up there. Again, he got a rifle, put it together, put the scope on, took the shot, took the rifle back apart. That he did that all, which had to take at least a couple of minutes, and nobody saw him except people did see him. Again, just like Butler, Pennsylvania, people saw the guy, the shooter on the roof in the crowd. They saw him, but nobody, none of the cops saw him. Nobody from the security team saw him. So I knew this was a lie when Kash Patel came out and tried to tell us this, and so I knew immediately that the Trump administration was in on the cover-up. So the FBI, the Trump administration, is in on this cover-up. This has to be because Donald Trump is a lapdog to Miriam Adelson and Benjamin Netanyahu, meaning the Zionists. So this had to do with Israel and the Zionists, and that's why they were covering this up. And so this is like unbelievable proof or evidence. This is a great piece of evidence showing that Donald Trump is in on this, and especially he's interfering in an IRS investigation. What do you say, Stu?
How many people has the United States military assassinated or gone to war with at the direction of Israel's leadership?
Right.
How many people have we gone in and used our military or our special forces operatives, and we've done assassinations, we've gone and taken these people, we've hanged them in the case of Saddam Hussein, we threw them in the ocean in the case of Osama bin Laden, we bring them back for the SDNY kangaroo court show trial in the case of, Nicolas Maduro. We go and we use force to take Bashar al-Assad and Muammar Gaddafi. And so, for me, what this looks like is a military operation.
Me too.
And so I don't know that Donald Trump is just necessarily involved in a cover-up, but I think that he also, too, had foreknowledge, because I believe it was a military operation to take out Charlie Kirk. I believe that our government and that the military-industrial complex and that the intel community very much took direction from the man that couldn't make his $150 million worth enough to Charlie Kirk. And this was somebody who Benjamin Netanyahu knew he was going to have a really big problem with. And I mean, speaking of all of that, this guy's the first guy to come out and make a statement right after Charlie Kirk is murdered. It's Benjamin Netanyahu on everybody's TV saying Israel didn't have anything to do with this. I promise we didn't have anything to do with this. Really love Charlie Kirk and his pro-Israel ways. So to me, it looks like it's just people taking orders, in the same chain of command that has become the status quo. But as far as Donald Trump writing that, I'm not subscribed. I'm not committed to that. I don't know that it was Donald Trump's handwriting. A lot of people have said J.D. Vance's, but the point is it doesn't matter. It came on Treasury Department letterhead. It came from the federal government, and it was a personalized message on government letterhead. So the way that I view that is I view that as a pardon.
Yes.
We're on your team. We are solidly in your corner. We are firmly behind you. There is no accountability. There is no investigation. And, like Wolves and Finance guy says, when do you get letters from the federal government telling you that you're not about to go to jail? It just doesn't happen. And so for me, that's the real takeaway from this letter, is that it not even just pertaining to the financial fraud that we know is going on, or at least have a really good idea that it's going on. We've seen receipts. They're in blatant violation of their 501c3 tax exempt status, as Zach DiGregorio has pointed out here. So it's not surprising to me to see this letter, but the way that I took it is that this is a pardon. And, you know, as far as if we're going to talk about the Kash Patel narrative, just to kind of put an exclamation point on what you said, if they want to get this over with right now, everybody knows that UVU is basically a mini super surveillance state. You can look around that campus and there are high-tech 4K cameras. You can't look anywhere without seeing them. Show us the video of Tyler Robinson taking the kill shot with his grandfather's 30-06. That's all you got to do.
Right.
You know, and as far as these people like Valhalla and Gary Melton and all these other operators and special forces guys, how many thousands of rounds of 30-06 ammo have these guys fired down range trying to replicate the wound but have been unable to do so? Yeah, that's because 30-06 round didn't kill Charlie Kirk. And everybody knows that. These guys are paid. These guys are propagandists for the government. They're propagandists for the very machine that has ICE on the streets in Minneapolis killing American citizens, that has young American men being deployed to go overseas all over the place and staging for deployments to take on Iran and take on Russia and take on China and go into Cuba and Colombia and Venezuela and Greenland. The same machine that has caused so much unnecessary death for America and for Americans and so much economic harm and so much filth and degeneracy and so much programming and the theft, the murder of childhood innocence in this country has been done at the hands of this machine. And that letter came from those people. And it was a welcome to the club letter. Don't worry about accountability. It's not happening around here.
That's exactly what
dangerous.
That was. That's exactly what that was. Here is my last piece of video I want to show you, and it comes from Zach again over at Wolves in Finance, and he's going to show you exactly the kind of shady dealings that he's uncovering. In fact, that they're breaking election law. This is just one of the things, right? So there's many other things